This is the Cannondale SystemSix Carbon Ultegra Di2. Now, for the second year running, the SystemSix has proven itself worthy of a spot on our editor's choice list, and that's because it remains one of the best handling and best performing aero machines on the market.
Second year in a row that Cannondale SystemSix has made it into the editor's choice list. So why is it back here?
Well, it's back because, I mean, look at it.
Yeah, it's a good looking
It's
bike.
amazing. The frame shapes are so angular and so aggressive.
Stealth fighter.
It is very like that, and everyone used to say that about aero bikes, and now it feels like aero bikes have kind of been reined in a little bit, and then Cannondale were like, well, here's our SystemSix, and it looks absolutely wild. And this is all aero optimized camtail tubing used in the frame, so that's where it is long and then it has a cut off and a flat back, which is aerodynamically the fastest shape for a bicycle frame to be.
So effectively tricks the air into thinking it's a much bigger frame shape, doesn't it? And then
Yeah, it does. It all helps the air stick to the frame, which is what makes a bike fast, whereas if the air separated from the frame, that's what creates drag. And in the wind tunnel, Cannondale say that this is the fastest bike available on the market, and they measured it with a rider in situ, so a lot of brands don't do that when they wind tunnel test things.
So that's an important detail as well, really, isn't it?
It is, so it is all about how the wind goes around a rider's legs and how the rider is positioned on the bike, and all of that informed the shape of this bike and how it ended up looking like this. But what's really interesting about it is that enormous front end, which is very beefy up there.
Got this incredible shape here, haven't we, which kind of like flows from the fork into the down tube itself. So that looks like it's a pretty sort of integral part to the design.
It is, yeah. The chine,
the chine,
as it's known as, is integral. And again, that just helps hold the air to the frame. As it leaves the fork, it reattaches it to the down tube. And the fork is integrated into the head tube, and then the head tube has this big presence at the front of the bike, which is then mirrored in the seat tube at the back, where it's that very camtail design is very obvious here. But then what's really interesting about the bike is it becomes very slender as it goes down to the rear, and that's to add a bit more comfort and again to help the aerodynamics stay true all the way through the bike. But these rear stays just add a bit of comfort to the ride as well. So it's a very well thought out bike. This is meticulous attention to detail here, which is very impressive considering this was Cannondale's first ever full carbon aero road bike. They obviously had the Splice time trial bike, which there was a lot of learnings from, and it's really impressive for it because it is very fast through the air and it rides wonderfully as well. Now, there's the common thought that aerodynamics are only for the pros because they're the only people riding fast enough to benefit from it, but that is not true. A lot of wind tunnel specialists and bike engineers now say that aerodynamics affects any rider that is riding above 15 kilometers an hour, which is sort of a pace that almost...
I think we all are able to do that at some point.
But we are all riding above that pace, so you can always be benefited by a good aerodynamic design, and the SystemSix certainly has that.
So obviously all of that is information. It's stuff that's down on paper in terms of aerodynamics, but the real important thing, and for everybody watching as well, is basically how it rides. So over the last 2 years now, really, you've had a lot of experience with this bike. So what's it like to ride?
The SystemSix is an incredible bike to ride. I would happily say that it is one of the fastest, if not the fastest, feeling bikes I've ever ridden. The psychological feeling of speed on the SystemSix is enormous. It feels incredibly stiff, it's really rigid, and it is very, very aggressive. It's actually quite an amazing ride sensation that I haven't really experienced on many other bikes that's quite like it.
But obviously, you know, stiffness, speed and everything, that's one thing, and obviously there's the basic remit for it. But in terms of like comfort, the last thing you want is to end your ride feeling like you don't want to carry on with that ride. So is there any sort of like level of comfort built into this bike?
There is, yeah, there is. It's actually a surprisingly comfortable frame considering how it looks. Because it has such of the like old school aero bike look about it, you kind of come to this with a preconception that it's going to be quite uncomfortable, which isn't true at all. It is actually impressively comfortable. It is, like I said, very rigid. So there is a degree of road feel that you do get through the frame, but I think the frame and the carbon fiber layup does a very good job of absorbing that. I think where the discomfort comes from, or the very small amounts of discomfort, is actually from the tyres.
Yeah, because that's a very interesting thing, and leads us on perfectly to one of the key features of this bike that we don't really see as much anymore. It's built around 23mm tyres, which, you know, a few years ago that was what everyone has. Now that's way too small, isn't it, for most people?
Yes, you would think that, but, and again, there's a big but here. These are 23mm tyres, but they are on 21mm rims internally. These Knot 64 wheels are 21mm wide, so these tyres measure up to 26mm, and I've had our calipers out in the workshop and I can confirm that these are 26mm wide on these rims. So I don't think it's the narrowness which is causing any type of discomfort. I just think it's actually the Rubino tyres. They probably wouldn't be my first choice of tyre to run on the bike. It's not a cost-cutting measure by Cannondale. It is actually the fastest tyre. Aerodynamically, the Rubino is the fastest tyre on these wheels, which is why it's been spec'd. But just it's a personal preference thing. They wouldn't be my first choice of tyre. But to swap them, there is an aerodynamic drawback.
One thing that strikes me about this particular bike that we have here as well is just how aggressive and just how fast it looks, even standing still. So the geometry is, I'm assuming, sort of pretty sort of race oriented, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So the SystemSix geometry is the most aggressive geometry that Cannondale do on any of their bikes. It is more aggressive than the SystemSix Evo, the new SystemSix Evo.
Which is the all-round race bike.
Yes, their lightweight all-round race bike. So it's actually a really useful way to differentiate the two bikes. Again, at a time when brands, lightweight bikes and aero bikes are coming closer together, Cannondale do have this nice differentiation in both looks and in terms of their geometry. So this is very much a racing bike built to go fast. The stack on the SystemSix is about 1.5 centimeters shorter than on the SystemSix Evo, which is quite significant, especially when it's completely slammed like I have it here. This bike was provided to us for the video shoot. We've ridden, or I've ridden a number of different SystemSixes in the last 2 years in various different stack heights and guises. And this one was particularly good fun to ride because I felt incredibly pro on it because of that stack height. And obviously one of the big benefits of having an aggressive bike and a low stack height is its handling. It's dramatically improved, and the SystemSix's handling is superb, especially for an aero bike. So with that stack, it handles really nicely, which again was a lot of fun when we were descending back down the Madone on our recent video shoot. That was terrific.
So this particular bike that we have here is the Ultegra Di2 version, isn't it? So talk to us a little bit about the extra, or the level of kit that we have on here.
So yes, so as I said, this is the carbon Ultegra Di2 version, and it costs £5,499. There are a couple of things different on here to bikes I've ridden previously, or SystemSixes I've ridden previously. So the last Editor's Choice model from last year was a Jaw Race mechanical group set. I actually far prefer the Ultegra Di2 group set to the Jaw Race mechanical one. It shifts better, it feels nicer. The hoods are smaller because it's electronics with hydraulic rather than mechanical with hydraulic, so it looks really nice as well. Can't really fault the group set in any way, as we found with Ultegra in the past. But one of the biggest differences with this bike is the Knot system bar. This is really impressive, and they're speccing this across all of their bikes now.
Yeah, so from a certain level, they've got on like the SystemSix, the Super 6, and the CAD 13 as well. So this is the one piece, but it's not really a one piece bar and stem, isn't it?
Yeah, the secret two-piece bar and stem. So whilst it looks like a one piece, they are actually separate, and the bar has 8 degrees of adjustment, so you can get your fit dialed in. But what's really nice about it is it fits normal spaces on top. So you don't necessarily have to cut your steerer if you don't want to do that, in case you want to sell the bike on, or you're not sure about your fit, or just in terms of doing adjustments on the bike. It makes it a lot easier that you can just put a normal spacer on top once you slam it. So that's the Cannondale SystemSix Carbon Ultegra Di2 for £5,499, and it's on our editor's choice list for the second year in a row because it's just such an impressive bike.
Thank you, Rupert. We hope you liked what you've seen today, and don't forget to like and subscribe to keep up with our latest releases, and more importantly, click on that notification bell to get that notice when our latest video is out. But until then, we'll see you soon. SystemSix in that editor's choice list.
Sorry, I could see your eyes. Were you about to say Super 6?
Sitting on the back of a tiger and giving it a slap and seeing what happens.
Yeah, but maybe it was my legs that's a bit more like sitting on the back of a pussycat.
A Shetland pony.
Yeah, a Shetland pony.